raise money for
Oh, yeah, especially for the children, the child. Yeah.
Friends, again, we are about to begin services, so we'll ask everyone to gather under the tent and behind the chair.
It's already up to 3.
Just to note, if anyone has a cell phone with you today, if you'd take a moment, please, to turn it off or place it in the silent mode.
It's in the car.
And friends, we will be leaving the register book out, so if there's anyone who did not have a chance to sign prior to the service today, you'll have an opportunity afterwards.
No, you're sitting there, Tom's sitting there.
Are there more people?
No, we're okay. We're okay. Tom's, no, Judy, Judy, you sit there. No, you're fine.
Friends, again, at this time we are going to begin services for Tony Freeman. I'd ask again, if you have a cell phone, if you take a moment, please, to turn it off or place it in the silent mode at this time. And officiating our services today is Rabbi Sharon Morton.
When I met with the family a couple of nights ago, we talked about possibly saying one prayer for all the people that were killed in Highland Park. And so we begin with a prayer regarding that terrible tragedy. Many of us have a close connection to Highland Park, having close friends, relatives, or past neighbors that live there. We're feeling deep sorrow for the lives that were lost, for those that were injured, and for everyone who was impacted by this terrible tragedy. The pain is still raw and the devastation is immense. Our hearts are with grieving families, our prayers are with the injured, and our thoughts are with all of those whose holiday turned into trauma. We are all here for them, and yet the pain and the loss remain. As we pray for all those injured and comfort those who lost loved ones or are otherwise suffering, let us find solace in channeling our pain into some kind of action, transforming darkness into light. It's precisely at difficult times such as those that we must galvanize ourselves to redouble our efforts to perform acts of goodness and kindness. And if there is anyone who has an action thought, this reading was put out by Rabbi Sholem and Dina Wolberg, and they do have a phone number, and they are putting together an initiative to promote kindness, sensitive, and generosity among all. And there is a phone number here that I can give you if you would like to do that. Let us take comfort in the indisputable reality that when light and goodness encounter darkness, evil, and hate, it's light and goodness that will ultimately prevail. And we all say together, Amen. And we are here today together to celebrate the life of Tony Freeman. Kriya is an ancient tradition, and the ribbons that the family is wearing, have they already been cut? No. Have they been cut yet? This tradition of Kriya, let me put this down here. This tradition of Kriya was started thousands of years ago when Jacob thought his son was dead. He rent his clothes, he tore his clothes. And sometimes in the Orthodox tradition, they still do that. We don't in the Reformed tradition, but what we do is we tear the ribbon just a little bit. And when we do that, it is a symbol. And when you wear that, if there are Jewish people that you meet along the way, they'll say to you, oh, you had a loss, what happened? And it gives you an opportunity to share a little bit about your loved one. If you meet someone who doesn't know about their tradition, they say, why are you wearing that black ribbon? And then it gives you an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm vulnerable right now, so be kind to me and be patient with me. And so we go to the family. I want to extend my deepest condolences to his wonderful children, to Jay and Andrew and Romi, to his grandchildren, Charlie and Frankie. You've all had the privilege of knowing and loving Tony and being loved by him. And now you have the obligation and the privilege of carrying forth his legacy into future generations by the way you speak, by the way you act, and by what you do for others. We honor him by our attitudes that we live with, by our own ability to laugh, by our own ability to share, by our own ability to be with our own family and friends. And as we do this, he will continue to bless our days and years to come. There are 3 people here today who want to share their memories. First, we call on Jay to come up and say a few words about his dad.
Thank you. Mensch. If I could pick only one word to describe my father, it would be mensch. Since my dad's passing, every person who has reached out has begun by saying what a nice and kind man he was. They remarked how he always smiled and was easygoing. This is how I will always remember him. The one trait from my father I try hardest to emulate is being a mensch. My father's life started out positively. His father was in the entertainment industry working for Warner Brothers, and he grew up in Oak Park. My uncle recently shared with me they had autographed pictures from Bob Hope, Roy Rogers, Dale Evans, and other celebrities their dad knew in the industry. And they always got into the movie theaters for free. Unfortunately, at the age of 11, Dad lost his own father to a heart attack. This had a profound effect on him, and is why exercise was so important to him throughout his life. But I think his happy disposition is what helped him to persevere over that challenge and become the person we all knew. Dad taught Andrew and me to have a passion for cars like he did. Starting at age 3, I went to the auto show every year with my father until I was into my 30s and began going with friends or my wife. He also exposed us to downhill skiing, something we grew to love like him, and we enjoyed on many family trips. Cycling was another one of his passions he shared, and I can recall many long rides we took together along the Harms Woods Trail or riding the path along Lake Michigan from the northernmost edge down to McCormick Place. Dad also enjoyed public speaking, which I inherited from him. I remember how proud he was when I won the top speaker award at my student congress debate competition, and he allowed me to drive one of his Corvettes, something normally off limits, as a reward. My father's mother passed when I was 3, and his cousin Syl and her husband Joe filled the role of grandparents on his side. I can still remember one visit to their house. They had turned on the car and put me in the back seat, and while they were sitting talking to Syl and Joe, I crawled over into the front and put the car in gear, managing to run into their house. Passover at Syl and Joe's was always one of my favorite holidays, as we would come together with all of Dad's family. Dad was proud of his grandsons and their accomplishments. He loved their visits when Charlie and Frankie rode their bikes around the block and would stop in for graham crackers and pretzels, or when they would stop by while taking Sugar for a walk. He enjoyed watching the boys play basketball and soccer, cheering them on. He even traveled with my mom to Los Angeles one of the summers we lived there so he could visit and take them to dinner at their favorite restaurant, California Pizza Kitchen. We were fortunate that he was able to participate in an aliyah for both Charlie and Frankie up on the bima at their bar mitzvahs. Dad, like my mom, greatly enjoyed traveling. I have fond memories of our family trips to Disney World nearly every year, trips to Palm Springs, Hawaii, and other warm locales, as well as ski trips. But Dad also enjoyed traveling with my mom and their friends, and they were fortunate to have some memorable trips with wonderful people. My father, also like my mother, loved to eat, yet never gained any weight. Chocolate was his biggest weakness. It seemed he never met a chocolate cake or ice cream he didn't like, or cookie, candy bar, really chocolate anything. Dogs were a big part of Dad's life. He loved our 2 Bichons, AJ and Marcus, but I think his favorite by far was their little Yorkie, Lily. He used to walk her all the time while living in Deerfield, and once he moved to Florida, he could walk Lily every day. When my mother passed, Lily became his constant companion. We moved Dad to an assisted living complex, Mariposa, where he quickly became the mayor. He and Lily were always out for a walk or in one of the common areas. When I would go to visit my dad, everywhere we went in Mariposa, people would say, "Hi, Tony, where's Lily?" My father truly enjoyed his time at assisted living and the friends that he made there. Just over a year ago, when I finished law school, I went to Florida to visit him before starting my studying for the bar. I had planned to come for a few days, but after seeing him and how much fun he had getting out and going places, I called Romi and she suggested I stay longer. We both agreed I should spend 10 days with him. In my heart, I had a feeling I would never have this chance to be with him for this much time again, while he was still reasonably able-bodied and minded. Every day we went out for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and enjoyed each other's company. We went to see my cousin Lisa, ran errands, everything that he wanted to do. I am so thankful that I had that opportunity to build those memories. That is how I will remember my father. Last summer, we had to move him into memory care, and when I went to visit him, I told him I would take him wherever he wanted. His first choice was to go back to the main building at Mariposa so he could see all of his friends. In memory care, Dad participated in many activities, won an award for bowling, and had the best time when they brought a petting zoo and he could play with the animals. I would like to end by thanking my family and friends for all of their support through this difficult time. Romi and the boys were already in Florida when I found out my dad had passed, but I was not alone for long. His friends immediately offered to have me for dinner and keep me company those 2 nights before I left. I then had a chance to spend time with my family, reminiscing about my dad and celebrating his life.
It's beautiful. The next person who is going to speak is Eddie Leshen. Eddie Leshen has been a friend of the family forever. And can I tell them the short part of that?
I am going to tell them.
Okay, then.
You can tell them if you prefer.
No, I prefer you to.
I should have printed like Jay and made this a little bit bigger. And the only dog I remember is Cho-Cho. Andrew, Jay, Romi, Charlie, Frankie, Murray, and Diane. Minnie and I are so sorry for your loss. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Not often in my life have I been at a loss for words. But as I sat down to write something, I found myself speechless. These are certainly very trying times and incredibly sad ones for America. It is often said that tomorrow is not guaranteed and that life is a gift, and we must make the time we have matter. The loss of an incredible person like Tony and the events of the last few days remind us just how true that advice really is. As our parents reach their golden years, we are faced with the sad truth that they will not be here forever. Unfortunately, I learned firsthand about loss of a parent at a very young age. I too was 11, but lucky for me, there was always a special set of parents that were there for me. Tony and Jackie were not just my friends' parents. They were not my parents' friends. They were not our family friends or neighbors that just lived on the street. They were like my other parents and provided me a second home to grow up in during my most difficult years. Jay and I have been friends for a very long time. His parents treated me like one of their own. They were my biggest supporters and always made me feel like I was one of the family. Tony and I belonged to that club that you never want to be in. We both lost our fathers at a very young age. That bond we had was not often discussed, but always helped me to feel understood. He knew why I was so angry, why I would act out or take larger risks. He understood me, and he was always a believer and supporter of me and my ambitions. Tony was the nicest person I think I've ever known. I can't remember him ever raising his voice or telling me I should behave or do something different. He offered advice and his opinion, but it never felt like it came with judgment or expectations. He was always willing to listen, and we would talk about any area of any challenge in life. I am so grateful to have had Tony and Jackie in my life, and I am honored to have the chance to speak about it today. I am so saddened to have to say goodbye to him, but so thankful to have had such an amazing person in my life. Andrew and Jay, thank you for sharing your family with me. I can't tell you how much it has meant to me and how much love and care about I have for your family. Our time has come to take the baton and guide our children and the next generation beyond them through the journey of life. Tony was a person we can take a lesson from. He was patient, kind, caring, and present. No matter how hard his own personal challenges or situations may have been, you always felt like he had your back, and he put you in front of anyone and anything. He was the definition of a good man. Now that that baton has been passed, we can continue to try and make the world a better place. Tony certainly did so, and we are all better for having known him. Rest in peace, Mr. Freeman, and we'll dearly miss you.
It was beautiful. And we're ready for Andrew to say a few words.
Hard to follow that. Thank you, Eddie, though, for the wonderful words about our father. Our dad was a wonderful husband, father, brother, and friend. He was always there for everyone in his life during good times and bad. He was born an excellent listener and always took the time to hear others before speaking. While many people saw my dad as being quiet, they knew when he spoke they should listen, because invaluable advice was about to be dispensed. He was widely respected as an expert in the insurance industry, and while he chose to always be humble, he built several businesses that provided generously for his family. It meant many days of long hours and travel, which translated to him not always being around for Jay and me, but he still played an integral part in our lives. I will always remember my dad being involved in a myriad of activities as I was growing up, including Indian guides, my various t-ball and baseball teams, Coho Swim Club, the Snowflake Ski Club, and several years of Taekwondo. As my brother already mentioned, automobiles were the centerpiece of my dad's passions. He loved them up till the day he died, and that was one thing we could still talk with him about. He would beam when talking about cars, specifically his Corvettes. We kept a picture by his bedside that showed his Corvettes together in front of the Deerfield house, along with Uncle Murray's Corvette, which he loved showing his aides, nurses, and doctors. Even with all the cars he owned and drove throughout his life, he had a special place in his heart for his Corvettes. Auto shows were also a big deal in our house. My dad always wanted it to be special for Jay and me. And as I got older, he went with us separately so we could both have time with him. I honestly think my dad loved being able to go more than once, just in case he missed seeing something with one of us. Over time, my dad began going to the First Look charity event, which is held the night before the Chicago Auto Show opens. He loved being able to see everything that night before the public was there and not having to deal with the throngs of people just to sit in a specific car. Not to mention, they had basically every car open, so he was able to sit in every car he wanted to. I only attended that once with him because when I happened to be in town during the event, since that was typically something he did with his close friends. It was literally, and it was literally the only time I can remember where my dad would willingly put on his tuxedo. His love of cars knew no bounds, so much so that my dad managed to build his last business around the automotive industry, counting many of the largest private dealer groups as his clients. Biking was another one of his major passions. Well, that came along a little later in life as a way for my dad to stay in shape. He made sure my brother and I were brought along for that ride. By the time I got into road bikes, my dad was already an expert and was taking 50-mile bike rides multiple times a week while the weather was good. My rides were a bit shorter, so typically I didn't join him, or if I did, I turned around at about the 10 to 15 mile mark and headed back while he continued on. Riding was by far his favorite form of working out, and he rode for many years till he physically couldn't. Our dad could also be a bit competitive at times. Just ask the people who used to play racquetball with him. While my dad was small, he was quick and had cat-like reflexes and was fearless on the racquetball court. He wasn't afraid of hitting the wall hard if he knew he could score the winning point. I watched many a game from the observation deck at the racket club and got to see just how tough a competitor my dad could be. As my brother mentioned, travel was something both my parents enjoyed, and they instilled the wanderlust I still have today to experience the world. In addition to the trips Jay already mentioned, my dad and I started going on a special father-son bonding trip when I was in my 20s. We went out to Colorado 4 summers in a row, spending a week there, enjoying the outdoors and riding on the amazing bike trails that wind through the mountains. The scenery was breathtaking, the rides were challenging, and of course, the food was incredible. Oh, sorry. Of course, I lost where I was. Sorry about that. After all, my dad did enjoy eating, just like my mom, and we had the opportunity to dine at some truly amazing restaurants while there. My mom would also ask me to take my dad shopping, because that was something he really didn't like to do with her. But he would go shopping with me. It was truly special to have that time together so he could get to know me as an adult and see the type of person he had raised. After living in Deerfield for more than 42 years, my parents decided to purchase a home in Florida to enjoy their golden years together. They had big hopes that the better year-round weather would help our mom and allow them both not feel like prisoners in their home during the winter. Our dad was also thrilled that he could be active year-round and that Lily, their little Yorkie, would be able to enjoy the daily walks she had once been accustomed to. While their time living there was regrettably short, my parents loved their new home and adopted community of Boynton Beach. It's hard to believe our mom passed away only 22 months ago. We certainly had never thought our dad would be gone so soon after. It's a strange feeling to have as a child when both of your parents are gone. While Jay and I understand how my dad passed was truly a blessing, dying peacefully in his sleep, it's still something hard to comprehend. One thing that does bring peace at a time like this is knowing our parents are together once again. May their memory be for a blessing.
Those were all beautiful, and I think no matter what words I have, they can't compare to what the three of you have said, and the images that they conjure up in terms of how beautiful he was and how good he was and how much you learned from him. So now we're about to read the 23rd Psalm together. It's on the inside of these little packets. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou appointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is the time to remember foundational stories. A foundational story is something, and you can do this when you get home with your family, to talk about what were the things that happened when you were young that you will never forget. What were the things that your parents did that you still talk about? So when I met with the family yesterday, I said, what are the stories that you will not forget, perhaps from long ago, things we learned from our parents, we reflect from them, we learn from them, and hopefully we move on to make our own lives more meaningful because of them. So I listened to just a few people a couple days ago who loved Tony, and I'm so sorry I didn't know him because it sounds like he was such a beautiful person. Bruce told us that he and Tony rode their bikes when they were younger. He said Tony knew no limits. One day Bruce fell. First, Tony jumped off his bike and helped him, and then he fixed the 2 tires on the bike. The story reminds me of another story I heard. A boy came home from school very late and his mom was worried, And she said to him, "Where were you? You should never come home from school this late." He said, "I couldn't help it. My friend fell down off his bike and I had to stay there with him." She said, "You don't know anything about fixing bikes. What did you do?" He said, "I had to stay there so I could help him cry." And I think that's perhaps what Tony did for his friends. Tony and his family had one of the first TVs ever in 1948 because Tony worked for Warner Brothers. And then, I don't know who this man was, but maybe some of you do, the very famous Rex Allen came over and watched TV in their house. So that was a very exciting moment, I guess. Another story that was remembered was that Tony went to boxing matches during the war years, and then he got Army and Navy jackets for his son. As I'm telling you some of these things that Tony did, it seems to me that he was very definitely a Renaissance man. He kind of knew everything and loved everything. Chuck told us one day they went to the lake, and Chuck wanted to go too. He ran to catch up with them, and he was stung by a bee. And just a few minutes ago, I saw a bee kind of circling around here, and I wished Tony was here so he could get rid of it for us. Tony made sure that he killed the bee that stung Chuck, but all the time he was running around trying to catch the bee, he was laughing, that special, strong laugh that only belonged to Tony. We also discussed memories of singing together, eating ice cream and chocolate, and you've heard already that Diane told us he really loved chocolate, and then someone else on the Zoom call said, yes, he really loved chocolate. And as you heard today, he really, really loved chocolate. And then Tony also taught Ken how to play basketball, and he shared the things that he loved with others. He was really a Renaissance person. He was also a bit of an imp, which I don't know if any of you know. It's a word from my generation. A word that reminds us of something long ago, like the time he tried to sneak into Brookfield Zoo. And I don't know if he ever finished doing that or not, but he thought he could try. He was a swimmer and he swam in meets. And aside, at Oak Park High School, and if any of you are old like I am, or in any of the high schools, all the boys swam naked. The girls, we had ugly suits, but they swam naked. So one day, Tony came out to swim and he was naked, but he forgot that it was a special meet and there would be guests that would be sitting around the pool. So he quickly ran back and found a bathing suit so that he could come out and swim. No one ever forgot that moment that was there. I asked the family, what were Tony's special values? What were his qualities? What did you learn from Tony that informed you how you want to live your life? Susan said he was the kindest person she ever met. And he always came out to say hello to her friends, and everybody loved him. Everybody agreed he was kind, nice, generous, good, loving, laughing, and passionate about so many things, tolerant of other people, doting on Jackie for over 59 years, and admiring her always. He respected his family and friends and helped them with whatever they needed. He was a really good listener, as Andrew said. He loved hearing other people's stories, and when he was in memory care, he created a coping mechanism to help people bridge the gap between him and others, because he would ask them a question and then he could listen to their stories. He was quiet but very, very social. We have one reading, and then I will tell you the other things I have. It's below the 23rd Psalm, and we can read together. Don't think of him as gone away. His journey's just begun. Life holds so many facets. This earth is only one. Just think of him as resting from the sorrows and the tears in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days and years. Think how he must be wishing that we could only know how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. And think of him as living in the heart of those he touched, for nothing loved is ever lost, and he was loved so much. Andrew said that his father tolerated the fact that he wasn't sure what he wanted to do in life. And he said, I wanted to be in e-commerce. And then he gave me 6 months to decide what I really wanted to do, but then I had to take a detour to help him find a business. He didn't understand branding, Andrew said, and he didn't understand a digital presence. Those words were not in his vocabulary. They are not in my vocabulary. They're not in anyone's vocabulary that's our age. Charlie shared every time he went to his grandpa's house, he was always offered graham crackers. And I don't know, Charlie, if you still love graham crackers to this day. Charlie also shared how much he loved Tony's dog, so finally he got his own dog, a Shih Tzu Poo. And one day in memory care, Tony told a joke, and after he told the joke, he winked. The family said they had never seen him wink before, so I guess it was a new learning from memory care. It is clear that Tony was a special treasure to his family and his friends, and I hope that as you talk this afternoon and tomorrow and next year, that you remember all the good things that Tony did and continue to talk about them. And what would be his final message to all of us today? He would say, don't cry for me now that I've died, because I'm still here by your side. My body is gone, but my soul is here. So please don't share another tear. I am still here. I'm all around. Only my body is in the ground. I am still the snowflake that kisses your nose. I'm the frost that nips your nose. I'm the sun bringing you light. I'm the star shining so bright. I am the rain refreshing the earth. I am the laughter. I am the mirth. I am the bird up in the sky. I am the cloud that's drifting by. I am the thoughts inside your head. And while I'm there, I can't be dead. And the last prayer we say, and I ask you to please rise, is first El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bimromav. When we, God full of mercy who dwells above, give rest on the wings of the divine presence amongst the holy, pure, and glorious, who shine like the sky to the soul of Tony Freeman, for whom prayer was offered in memory of his soul. Therefore, the merciful one will protect his soul forever and will merge his soul with eternal life. The everlasting is his heritage, and he shall rest peacefully here. And let us say together, Amen. And now we're ready for the grave to be prepared. And as they do that, they're ready to do that. As they do that, we can sit down for a minute. And this is another piece that I love to read because it reminds us of when we remember him. When we're weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. When we're lost and sick at heart, we'll remember him. When we have a joy that we crave to share, we will remember him. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, or when we have achievements we want to share, we will remember him. At the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, at the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, at the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. At the rising of the sun and in its setting, we will remember him. As long as we live, he too shall live, because he is a part of us as we remember him. And now we rise once more for Kaddish. We're going to say the mourner's Kaddish. The word Kaddish means sanctification. The prayer is a sanctification of God's name, and it ends with asking God for peace. One of the most sacred rituals observed by Jews throughout the generation is the practice of reciting the mourner's Kaddish, written in Aramaic. It's almost 2,000 years old and traditionally recited in memory of the dead. There is also a Kaddish that is said during a prayer service just to mark the end of one section of prayer and the beginning of another section of prayer. There's no mention of death in the prayer. It is just a prayer dedicated to praising God. Some people feel when they say Kaddish they are not alone, but God is with them. And today, after asking the family, they said that we should say Kaddish too for those people who died just a few days ago in Highland Park. So first we say Kaddish for Catherine Goldstein, for Irina McCarthy, for Kevin McCarthy, for Jackie Sundheim, for Nicholas Toledo, for Stephen Kraus, for Eduardo Ubaldi. Of those 7 people who died, only one of them was not Jewish. But it is within our tradition to say Kaddish for Jews and Christians alike. And now we say Kaddish for Tony Freeman, and may all their memories be for a blessing. And we say, Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, v'Alma Divrach Yerutei v'Amlik Malchutei, v'Chaye Chon u'Yomei Chon u'Chaye Beit v'Kol Beit Yisrael ha'Agala u'Bizman Kariv v'Yamru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach v'Olam u'Almei Omaya. Yit Barach v'Yishtabach v'Yit Ba'ar v'Yit Romam v'Yit Naseh. V'yit Hadar v'Yit Aleh v'Yit Alal Shemei D'Kusha Brichu. Le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran v'Alma v'Yamru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'Yamru Amen. Oseh Shalom b'Romav. Hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'Yamru Amen. Dear God, as you make peace in the heavens, please make peace on all of us and on the whole world. May God's name be sanctified, and may we all say together, Amen. So when God was first there and the world was dark and void, there was nothing but the angels. And the angels said, God, we keep bumping into each other. It's so dark here. So God created light. And then the angel said, this is beautiful, God. Are you finished? And God said, no, I think something else. And he created the vegetables and the fruits and the grasses. And the angel said, wow, this is a great world. Are you done yet? And God said, no. And then he created man and woman. And God said, they are so, and the angel said, they are so cute. Now are you done? And God said, no, I just created my partners. And now it's up to them. It's up to all of us to make this world a perfect world the way we want it to be, the way we hope it will be. And now we are ready. So what I'm going to ask is that, first of all, if you guys would like to come up, this is some earth from Israel. Your father loved to travel, and so he would be happy to have some earth from Israel in the grave. And then we're going to ask the family first. There is a story. It's not a law, it's not a tradition, so you can do what you want with what I'm telling you. That you're supposed to put 3 shovels full into the grave, and the rabbis who made up the Mainsa, the story, said it's because that the one might be an accident, even the second one could be an accident, but if you do 3 for sure, you meant to do it. What was really the tradition is that the family stayed and they buried their relative, because it is the last thing that anyone can do for that person, and it's the last thing that you will do that he can never repay you for, because he can never do something else back for you. So it's an important tradition to do something. So if the family will come up first and shovel whatever number of shovels full you want, and then we're going to ask other people to do that.
Friends, just a reminder, I know some of you have already received it, but we do have more cold water. If anyone is in need, please feel free to help yourself. We have them located here on either side, and we're happy to get some for you if you need it.
Okay, and then if there's anyone else that would like to do the same, then please come up. And while they're doing that, I'm going to read one more reading that I really loved. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears, but said what mattered most was the dash between the years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and only those who loved them would know what that little line was worth. It matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we lived and loved and how we spent our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you would like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. Be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like you've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say and how you spent your dash?
Friends, just a reminder as well too, the family will be together at the Freeman residence today following the service until 4 p.m. There'll be a luncheon there. And then the Shiva will continue from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. That information is on the folder that you received today as you arrived. And for those of you who are joining us via the live stream, that's also available on our website as well. Again, there'll be the luncheon today until 4 p.m. And then the Shiva will pick up again at 6:30 p.m. and continue to 8:30 p.m. tonight. Thank you. Friends, this does conclude our services today. We will be ending the live stream at this time as well. We thank everyone for coming out today.